Hey, party people. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, something a little new to the channel. I am critiquing a viewer's work on camera. I forgot to ask whether this person wants their name said aloud, so I won't. Dear viewer, feel free to out yourself in the comments. Otherwise, you will stay anonymous. Some of you may be wondering, well, did she use a visual reference? Did she send you the visual reference, etc., etc.? And at this stage, when I'm grading, when you get to the stage where you have finished step 4 croquis, I don't want to see visual references, because when I'm looking at your design work and I'm looking at your illustrations, I'm not going to be looking at your visual references. That's for you. At this point, it just needs to look good whether your visual reference is messed up or not. If your visual reference is messed up, you need to correct it. And you're like, well, Zoe, if my visual reference is messed up, then how do I know? Because you should not be looking at one visual reference. You should be looking at tons of bodies and a million different arms to understand kind of like the general average of what a nice arm looks like. And so when you see kind of like an abnormality in a visual reference, maybe it's a weird Photoshop job, maybe it's a trick of the lighting, what have you, you should know to correct it. That's why it's always like, always be looking at stuff. Just real quick, because you guys are always asking what I'm using. These are the Pilot Color Enos, and if you have watched my figure drawing videos, then you will have heard me wax poetic about these. These are awesome. They are mechanical colored pencils, and these are my favorite tool for correction work. I use these in the classroom when I'm grading and doing corrections. I love these. There are a couple other brands out there who do the mechanical color pencil. This brand is nice because the color pigment is very good. Anyway, moving on. Let's correct some of these croquis. Just real quick, if you want to learn how to do croquis the way I teach them, there's playlists. I have a whole playlist on girls. I have a whole playlist on guys. If you can't be bothered, go buy my fashion figure templates at my Etsy store. Whatever, you do you. They look pretty good. These are 9-head figures. Overall, looking at your croquis, the thing that I want you to work on overall is your line quality, because your line quality is lacks confidence. And when you have a very timid line quality, it just gives a timid appearance overall. Okay, let me just explain something to you. There are 2 cheats in fashion illustration. And once I tell you these secrets, you'll be looking for them in every freaking fashion illustration you ever come across, okay? There are two cheats in fashion illustration, and if you can conquer these 2 cheats, you can convince the casual observer that your illustration looks good. Number 1, faces. People love to look at a pretty face, and so if you can make a pretty face happen, for some reason, the rest of the illustration looks good. I promise you. I see this in critique all the time, okay? Because when I run critique in class, I expect my students to also participate, and I ask them to point out good stuff, point out bad stuff. It's always the ones with the pretty faces. They're like, oh, I love this one and I love that one. I'm like, actually, that one is not that good. The face is beautiful, but we're doing plaid renderings and the plaid is very muddy. What are you talking about? Okay, faces and line quality. Okay, when you have a beautiful, expressive, and there are a lot of different kinds of beautiful line quality. If you can nail the line quality, you can. It's almost like penmanship and grammar. It's like if your penmanship is good and your grammar is on point, most people think that you're just smart and you know what the hell you're talking about, which is totally not true. I know tons of people with excellent grammar who are completely stupid. We all know these people. Anyway, moving on. So I want you to work on your line quality. And part of that is, of course, I have never watched you draw, so I don't know what's happening, but it's almost wobbly a little. Maybe you were working on a rough surface. The big thing is this here. I don't know how that could happen in real life where the arm is behind. Like, do you see this overlapping? How that would not happen in real? I don't even know how that wrist would wrap around. That width does not make sense. That just looks very inconvenient. This one, I want you to work on your symmetry. Here's the center of her head, and you know, her neck, it needs to be centered, okay? And so even when the pose is asymmetrical, okay, her breast should be about the same size, even if it's at a slant, okay? And then her hip, okay, here and here. And do you see how there's no musculature in her upper arm? Double-headed Mickey Mouse, okay? So we're gonna wrap that around her deltoid, dip in, and there's her elbow, and this is coming out. And you see like that kind of armpit webbing where it kind of connects? You wanna see that? And then her bicep is in here. And then this flesh kind of expands because, you know, when it, you know, your elbow will look one width, and then when you squish it, it looks very deep, right? So bring that in and bring that in. And I wouldn't even, see again, there's her shoulder, there's her shoulder, there's her center. Okay, work on that symmetry. Okay, and her arm is back here, and like if her arm is back there, don't bother with the hand. Her hip is sufficient. I feel like her knee could come out a little bit. It almost looks like she's bending her leg, and then bring that out. Watch these ankles, okay? That whole high on the inside, low on the outside. You know, it's subtle, and you don't want it to look too bulbous, okay? Go ahead and feel your own ankles and how rounded out they are. Like the outside is pretty pointy, okay? Koreans call that the peach pit bone. I mean, which is a misnomer because it's not a separate bone or anything, but that's a good way of thinking about it, like the size of a peach pit just kind of sticks out, right? And it's very small. It's not a big round thing. And then the inside is similar in size, but much more rounded. So we're gonna bring that and just gonna soften that. And then the outside is a little bit sharper. All right? But quite good. This one, it looks like her head is too far back on her neck. And I would actually bring her head forward. I forget which video I addressed this in, but when you have 3/4 profile type views, you have to be aware of how much your head curves forward. Okay, our necks come forward. Okay, our necks are not straight up and down on our shoulders. Okay, look at any number of healthy x-rays and you'll see that spine curvature. And so you want to also see that in your figures. Okay, so that it looks natural, that she doesn't look like she's trying to be, you know, a soldier. I mean, even soldiers, you can look like you're standing up tall and proud without looking stiff and too straight, like I'm normally straight, right? So again, let's, you know, I want you to work on your arm anatomy. Let's curve that in. And again, it just looks like a little bit like she's bending her leg. Like I want you to kind of think about re-examining your knees and just popping it out like a millimeter or two, or like a 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, depending on the height of your figure and what measurement system you use. Because I want to do this and I want to do this. Like I'm keeping the size of your knee because I think it's correct, but I'm just popping it out because I think it makes her look like she's standing up straighter. You see that? And then again, you wouldn't see that because you have a 3/4 foot. Her peach pit bone is right there actually. Okay. And then you're gonna see a little bit roundness on the top of her foot, okay? Because when we arch our feet into a high heel, you're gonna see a little bit of that. That one's okay. You see that, how popping her leg out a little bit just makes her look like she's really standing up straight. And then this tipping her, bringing her head forward just makes it look like she has a more natural angle to her neck. This one is good. Again, I would bring the head forward. It kind of looks like you did in a previous draft. But again, I would bring this in or tip it forward. Because even if she's looking right at us, she is a side view, and so her neck is coming forward a little bit. And then this is all connected, but I would bring it in just a hair because it just seems like she's pulling back a little bit too much. So I want to do that. Your hands are all over the place. You have some really good ones, and you have some really weird ones. So just keep working on it. It's fine. You know, hands are freaking hard for almost everybody. This kind of dent, okay, you don't want dents, okay, where your body doesn't bend, okay? You either want the corners where it bends, like this bent elbow, or you want things to just smooth out. So yeah, you can have swells and curves, but you don't want it to go like this. You want them to smooth out. Okay. Just bring that nice and round. And you know, I wouldn't die if these feet were a little bit bigger. Just a little bit, not too much. Okay, that got a little bit. You know what I mean. This one is pretty good, but again, I really need you to be cognizant of your line quality and making things look smooth, because when I look at it, I see the vertical proportions are good, your overall proportions are good, the pose is nice. It's a little stiff, but it gets lost in how choppy and chunky the line quality is. When the head dips down, your eye line will dip down as well, just a little bit. And your ears go up higher. That's just perspective, right? I've had students ask me, like, Zoe, people's breasts aren't like all round and perfect and sit all perky high like that. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. However, the reason I draw breasts like this and encourage others to do so as well is most of the time we are wearing brasiers under our clothes. Women, okay, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time women wear brasiers under their clothes. And so my naked figure has breasts that look like she's wearing a brassiere, kind of, you know, supported and lifted and rounded and, you know, all those nice things, okay? Because that's when you have a fit model, you'll typically have them wear a brassiere as well. I want to extend this arm a little bit because I think that it just makes it being so straight up and down makes her look a little bit stiff. And also I want to, you know, this is a big muscle. I mean, mine is pretty prominent because I draw so much, but you do want to bring that out. And I do like pulling it out so that she does look like she's walking and naturally kind of bending her arm. Where's her center front? Okay. I do like kind of like a nice hip, but just watch your symmetry here because you have, you know, you want to keep a consistent shape on one body, right? And yeah, it will be a little bit foreshortened because her arm is picking up. There's her elbow. That's about right. And then this leg anatomy, out, curving in, and then round for the knee. And again, I want to bring that in, pop that out, I mean. And then straight on the outside, high curve. Pop that out, drop that kneecap a little bit. Low curve on the inside. I don't know what's happening with her foot here, but there's her ankle. Okay, there's that angle of her ankle. And then let's remember, this is about the length of her foot, so yeah. And then again here, rounded in, dipping in, straight on the outside. And then when you have a bent leg, the kneecap is always going to sit on the bottom of the thigh, if that makes sense. Because the kneecap will move down to kind of cup the bottom of your knee. And then when your calf is foreshortened, it's going to bulge out more. I don't know what's happening with her foot there. It's a little... Right, so little changes. Pretty good. So do not despair. You're doing pretty good. Watch that wrist. I don't know what's happening there, but it looks like her wrist is broken. Ooh. Okay, just smooth that out. And when in doubt, bend your own hand to that action. But that looks a bit more elegant, yes. And again, well, I guess this one is a walking pose, so if her leg is a little bit bent, that's okay. But again, this is one of those cheats, transferring photo to illustration, where in the illustration, this kind of little cheat works a little bit better. Okay, so just the leg looks a little bit more elegant and long, even though this is not a super elongated figure. Again, this like hand wrapping around, it just doesn't make sense with like how much flesh there is and how 3D that wrist should be. At this angle, like it would be very probable that you don't have to see this hand, and I wouldn't even bother to draw it. This is probably your weakest figure. Okay, so touching up on some of the stuff from before. I really think it should go forward like that. She just looks so stiff. And her breasts seem super high, and I think it's because her shoulders are dropped so much. So she should be here, and her breasts are here. And I get that your elbow is at 3, but when her arm is bent, it will be shortened. So I would just bring that in there like that. And her bum is out like that. And okay, there's that hamstring bulge. And let's top of your quad is quite round. And then, I mean, this leg is too skinny. Like, you were gonna see a little bit of an overlap. And the front of your shin does curve out a little bit. Okay, feel your own shin. You should feel flesh on top of there. Okay, otherwise the bone is too close to the surface, and ask any soccer player about that. That's where your ankle would be. That's kind of the angle there. If you wanted an arm to stand out, you know, you could do something like that. But that like close wrapping around actually doesn't look 3D. You see the difference there? Here you see where I tell you 4 1/4 should be the bottom of your, like right at crotch level, right at the bottom of your butt, not 4. Do you see how on a figure this short, that a figure with a 4 1/4 head torso and a figure with a 4 head torso, do you see the difference and how much that impacts the overall proportion? So there's your breast in here, and there's your shoulder blade, and your waist is here, and there's where your rib cage would sit. Okay, see a little bit of the side there, blah, blah, blah. There's your rib cage, and there's your center back. There's your bum. And then you want that, if you want that high hip bone, yeah, that can come out. But these legs are way too skinny. It just doesn't connect with the rest of her figure. So yeah, you can have that sexy little hip bone sticking out, but you still need to have it connect to the rest of her. This one is okay. You do need to work on your symmetry. You have 2 different size legs here. You do need to work on your anatomy shapes, but this, I mean, would you really see that? That just looks really awkward. I don't see why you need it. Okay, off camera, I'm trying to do this pose, it's not working. That's my number one thing in class, is like, if you look at a pose and it might look awkward or you're kind of feeling weird about it, try doing the pose. And it's like, do you feel awkward or do you feel sexy? If you feel sexy in the pose, this is a great pose. This is the mood you want your girls to be posed in, go for it. If you feel stupid, then don't draw it. She's pretty good. I would slim down her ankles and like bring this in some. I get the whole strong, proud, like arching back pose. I'd still bring her head in just a hair. Just a hair. Okay. And then, okay, here's her breast here, and double-headed Mickey Mouse, okay? Even with her arm extended, okay, you wouldn't have this giant armpit gap. I want to do that. And I want to do that, and I want to do that. And so you still get that really proud Amazonian sort of pose without the giant armpit gap. This one is quite nice, but I would just shrink the head a hair. Like I would just draw it. Like this is something that a lot of my students do, is like when I say, you know, shrink this a little bit or shrink that, you know, make this a little bit bigger. I mean like really a little, because I mean, these figures are 10 inches tall. These figures are not even 8 inches tall. And so when I say shrink or make bigger, I mean like 1 millimeter. And when I say, yeah, that needs to be moved around a lot, I probably mean something like 2 millimeters, okay? When you have figures, I mean, a lot is like 1/8 of an inch. A little is like 1/16 of an inch. Sometimes I mean like literally just draw the inside of your original line to make it that much smaller. You know, you're not changing the whole proportion, you're just shrinking it a hair, like literally a hair. And maybe not your hair, but like my hair. I have baby fine hair. Okay. So you want big breasts, that's great. Just symmetry is nice. All right. And then your ankles, again, work on your ankles. There's your peach pit bone. I tell you right now, I kind of hate all poses where the arm goes up like that, because there are very limited styles that you can do without it ruining the design communication. And so if you're a designer, like, don't bother with these kinds of poses, like this kind of thing or this kind of thing. If you're an illustrator, sure, go for it. We don't care. But it's like, if you do strapless gowns, if you do bathing suits or lingerie, that's what these poses are good for. Anything that has a sleeve or a shoulder, especially anything tailored, a coat, sweater, ruins the line. It like compacts design so that you can't really see what's happening. This is the slope of her breast. We don't have a natural Mickey Mouse because her arm is extended so high. And her armpit, okay? And so her shoulder is probably sitting more like that. There's her armpit, okay? Again, see, that's her pelvic box. I'm sorry. That's not how it goes. Do. Did Zoe Hong make a mistake on camera? Why, yes, she did. There's her pelvic box, because you're kind of seeing the underside of her butt because she's sticking her butt out. Here's that. And then we're raising the shoulder blade because it's connected and it's moving up. And there's her armpit. And there's her breast in here. Okay. And you only see a little bit of it. There's her neck. There's her spine. There's her other shoulder blade kind of going up because the other arm is raised. And her butt sticks out. There's her butt crack. Okay. Let me just smooth that out. We're gonna pop this leg out so it doesn't look bent. Especially in a pose where it looks like all the weight is balancing on one leg, it's really important that anatomically, at least one leg looks really sturdy and is like on the floor. So there's the back of her knee. This one is all right. Again, work on your symmetry, work on your anatomy shapes. Everything in here would be crunched in and then pulled, because everything is pulling. So you know when you yank your arm up, you know, the sleeve gets shorter. And so it's all in here and it's all bunched in, and your jacket swings out. For an expressive illustration later on, that can look cool, but you're losing your ability to design the space because everything is busy getting scrunched in and draped in. Whereas, you know, if you are putting a jacket on a figure like this, you can design in all this space. So yeah, this looks a little bit more boring, but this is to show design. This is to be flashy and expressive and wonderful. So I'm kind of willing to bet that these are your earlier ones, because the ones in this format are really not as good as the others. Either that or you had beginner's luck and then you started getting sloppy. I don't know, but these figures are really not your best work out of what you've given me. And a lot of these, it's just, you know, finessing your line and really like getting more precise with the anatomy. You have the same problems over and over again, so it's just a matter of like, you know, correcting those and practicing and moving on. But these, just go ahead and get rid of those and focus on, you know, correcting the ones that look pretty good. And, you know, work on the angle of your neck, making sure your ankles look nice and graceful. Work on your symmetry. Pop those knees out, 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, this has been fun. I do miss doing critiques in class. I don't miss all the grading. Oh my God, I don't miss all the grading. I don't miss the grading. But this was fun. If you are interested in sending me work for me to critique on camera, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing these videos. Kind of depends on how popular this one is, to be honest. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. Please hit that thumbs up button if it was, and share, subscribe, all those good things. Drop me questions in the comments. Viewer, thanks for the croquis. I think you did a great job overall. Hashtag always be practicing. Hashtag practice not magic. If your first one sucks, you're right on track, and I will see you in the next video.